So, headline of the show, got to talk about it. Lions absolutely pantsed the Dallas Cowboys on national TV in front of their friends, family, God, and everybody. Everybody saw that the Cowboys go out there and get absolutely smoked. I mean, just from a box score perspective, you look at the stats from the Cowboys. Dak Prescott went 17 for 33, 178 yards, no touchdowns, couple of interceptions, sacked 4 times. And then after his day was done, because Lord knows he was not going to be able to stay in the whole game, Cooper Rush comes in, goes 8 for 11, 1 interception, did not get sacked. I should note, by the way, as well, Cooper Rush did throw that interception in the red zone on I think it was a 3rd or 4th and goal. And it sealed the deal that the Cowboys were not going to score a touchdown. It would have been kind of funny if Cooper Rush threw for more touchdowns than Dak Prescott that whole game, but unfortunately, he did not. But I mean, even on the run game, they were held to just 53 total yards. Rico Dowdle, I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but Rico Dowdle had 5 carries for 25 yards. He was their leading rusher. Their leading rusher had almost half of their total rushing yards. That's not good. That's not good. Average of 5 yards a carry, which actually isn't a terrible average. It's not great, but it's not like awful. Ezekiel Elliott, the old cowboy back in town, 8 carries, 17 yards. Now that's a stat you just can't make up. So basically, you're not running the football on our team. You couldn't pass the ball on our team. Their leading receiver was held to 100 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 89 yards on 7 catches. Again, no touchdowns. Longest play for him was 27 yards. And I think that was a catch and run. I don't even think it was like he just caught it 27 yards deep. So overall, the Cowboys got absolutely shellacked, at least on that end. But I would be remiss. And I know I've sort of praised, but we're gonna do bad and then end with good. All right. Aiden Hutchinson goes down. I didn't actually see the injury. I'm not going to go back and look at it. If Fox wasn't willing to show me the replay, why the heck would I go out of my way to go see Aiden Hutchinson's leg fall off? Obviously, it goes without saying that Aiden Hutchinson is one of, if not the best defensive players on the team. I think he was on pace to be the defensive player of the year. He might have been having an all-time year for a Lions defender in general. In the game, he actually did end up having a sack, and that was the play that he ended up breaking his leg there. But there's been a lot of dialogue about what the team is going to look like on Jerry's birthday, too. That's right. Happy birthday, Jerry. Aiden Hutchinson off this team defensively. How does the team now look? Now, for one, if you just look at the individual stats, like team stats for the Lions defense, it's not particularly close as far as where the entire team ranks compared to where Aiden Hutchinson ranks. I think he's got what? Hold on, let me see if I can actually pull it up here. This year he's got 12 solo tackles, 7.5 sacks. He leads the league in sacks, by the way. He's got a forced fumble as well. He had 3 tackles on Sunday. One of them was a sack. Basically, he's basically the best player on the defense. I think I don't know what the total number. He's got 7.5 total sacks. I think the rest of the team has like 4 or something like that. Like it's pretty stark the loss of Aiden Hutchinson in terms of how much production he does for this defense. Now, there's a lot of dialogue about whether or not this is like the end of the defense or the end of the season. I was hearing a lot of people on social media, on talk radio, say that basically with Aiden Hutchinson going down, you're just not going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl. Now, I'm never going to be the kind of guy who makes that kind of prediction, because there is no way in hell you can determine whether or not a team is quote unquote good enough to win a Super Bowl in week 6. I just fundamentally disagree with that assessment, short of the team being the Carolina Panthers or the New England Patriots, right? Short of the team being 1 win or 0 wins, there's really no way you can just determine it. You could say, all right, absolutely, you are not going to win a Super Bowl at this point without, without adding to this room in replacement of Aiden Hutchinson. Now, do I think that this defense is going to be significantly worse without Aiden Hutchinson? Heck yeah, I do. I mean, like, again, 7.5 sacks, leads the league. That's your whole pass rush basically, is gone without Aiden Hutchinson. However, to be, bright side Barry for a second, you have a very good linebacker room. Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, both very good. And Malcolm Rodriguez, to his credit, has filled in a role that he was not expected to have to fill, taking over for Derek Barnes, who's also out for the year. And he's done pretty solid. Your DBs, I think, are far and away improved from where they were last year. Amik Robertson. Hopefully Carlton Davis is good. He went out at that game as well because he got kicked in the head with his helmet off. That shouldn't be anything too serious. Probably just at the worst, he'll miss this week against Minnesota under concussion protocol. But Carlton Davis, significant upgrade in the secondary. Terrion Arnold, I think, will continue to get better as the year goes. And your two safeties in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are complete lockdown ball hawk kind of guys. If you throw in their general vicinity, there's a very good shot that ball is going to end up in the hands of one of them. So I think the defense is still improved from where it was last year, even without Aiden Hutchinson. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the Lions should definitely be going after some big name. Unfortunately, Max Crosby, the guy that I really want, is pretty much out of the trade market, at least according to the reports, was that, Vegas is not going to take offers on him. Now, I'll take that with a grain of salt. You say you're not going to take offers until you take offers. And the closer it gets to the deadline and the worse your team ends up looking and the further back you are from competing, all of a sudden those 2 first-round picks over the next couple of years, they sound pretty good. Not that that's necessarily what it's going to take to move a Max Crosby, but, you never know. Teams make stupid decisions all the time. It's crazy when you think, oh my gosh, how could they have traded this player for this amount of it's like, because teams do that. They're usually, if you're like 1-6, you're not a particularly well-run organization. So, but the other name that's in the mix as well is, of course, Myles Garrett. And I think he is probably a much harder case to make in that he's already signed Cleveland, while also being potentially a worse dumpster fire in that they probably are going to fire their GM, if not fire their coach as well. Their quarterback is potentially one of the worst, if not the worst in the league, maybe even having a top 5 worst season of all time. We'll get to that a little bit later. And they already sold Amari Cooper, who was probably their best wide receiver at this point, and their best offensive player outside of Nick Chubb, who should be coming back at some point. And please, who knows if he's even going to stick around at this point, because you got to imagine a lot of these guys on Cleveland are sending in their trade requests to the general manager to get them literally anywhere else. Like, and it could be, I think some of these guys would rather play in the CFL than play for the Browns. I'm not going to lie. Maybe not for the kind of money, but I don't know. It might be kind of rough living in Cleveland and having to play for that team. I mean, your quarterback is one of the most vile human beings currently in the league, and he might actually be a better person than he is a quarterback. That's saying something. But anyway, on the Lions, Myles Garrett, I don't think is really on the table. I don't really think Max Crosby is on the table. I don't know who specifically is on the table for the Lions, really, if I'm just being perfectly honest. There's probably going to be somebody that they go after. I don't think it's going to be this, superstar Aaron Donald out of retirement kind of move. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get Ndamukong Suh out of his retirement home. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that they're going to have to acknowledge this, and I think they'll have a better idea of how much they need it after this weekend against Minnesota. Because if you can't rush the passer on a Sam Darnold, you're in for some trouble, especially with their wide receiver room. Now, that's all the bad stuff. I want to talk a little bit of good stuff because I hate for after a 47-9 win, we have to talk about how this defense is not going to be good and maybe we've lost our Super Bowl chance this year. I don't think that's true. This offense is legit, and it's probably the best in football, and it might not even be particularly close. David Montgomery, I don't know how this guy has gone under the radar for as long as he has. I remember him when he played for Chicago, and when the Lions picked him up in free agency, I thought this was one of the more underrated moves, and it has turned into he right now could be a top running back in the NFC at least. But I mean, Like he's playing at such an unbelievable level. He's basically impossible to tackle. He gets paid over the weekend, and then let me just run for 80 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and then I'll take the time off at that point. Like I say it on the live broadcast all the time. It takes at least 2 guys to take this guy down. Like if you get him on first contact, consider yourself lucky because that's not going to happen more than once, or at least not more than once in a row. And then on the receiver end, Jamison Williams is really coming into his own. Tim Patrick had a big game, 3 catches for 68 yards. Sam Laporta finally had a game. He only caught the ball 1 time, but it was for a touchdown and 52 yards. Amon-Ra, who had not a great game, went on the stat sheet, just 4 catches for 37 yards, but he had a touchdown. Like, there's just so many guys that can be gone to. Like, you're not going to have really those games for the most part. Maybe you might have some, but the Lions scored 47 points and they didn't have a receiver with more than 100 yards. And that tells me everything I need to know about how good this offense is. They didn't have a rusher who had over 100 yards. Like Jared Goff is dialing the ball up to his guys. 3 touchdowns for him, 315 yards as well. He's mixing in the run game. In play action, Jared Goff is practically automatic and damn near the best quarterback in the league in play action. I want to say they showed some stat, or I saw some stat that in play action, he's like he has like the most touchdowns or the most yards or something in play action passes, and it's not even really close. Like, it's crazy to me that after those last couple of years in LA, that this guy was completely written off, by myself included, as just a total bum and a draft bust, because he is not only living up to that potential as a number 1 overall pick that he was. He's a top 3 NFC quarterback at least, maybe even top 2. He might be number 1 if you really want to dive deep into it. But we'll get into that later because there's another quarterback in the NFC that I might have to tip my cap to. But offensively, this team has the goods to go to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. As far as whether or not their defense can recover from an injury like Aiden Hutchinson, that will have to be shown in time. We did just see the Chiefs last year win a Super Bowl with defense, but I don't know that defense is really what wins in this NFL. I mean, the defense might win in those big games because defense travels. And obviously, I'm not underplaying defense at all, but you're going to win a lot of games this regular season with offense. And that means you can give yourself home field advantage. You can give yourself a bye week in the playoffs. And it could be 2 victories to the Super Bowl for Detroit. I mean, looking around at the NFC, the only team that you got to catch up with right now is Minnesota, and they're in your division, and they might not even be for real. We'll find out this Sunday, but either way, still a lot of season to go for Detroit. It's not ideal, but hey, you know what? Any way of beating the Cowboys is a victory as far as I'm concerned, and especially beating them in the worst home loss in the history of the franchise since like 1950 something, since before any of us were even alive. Yeah, that does bring joy to this Lions fan's heart. And hey, you know what? Taylor Decker reported. So as far as I'm concerned, we've beaten the Cowboys 2 years in a row. And all those Cowboys fans who wanted to talk trash after that faux win, and well, since that faux win, by the way. I want to say they have not. Hold on. I'm going to double check this. I want to double check this because I want to just make sure that I'm correct here. All right. So 2023. Let's see. Does it include postseason? It does not include Oh, yes, it does include postseason. So since that win on December the 30th, the Cowboys have not won in Jerry's World. So since that win, since the refs stole the game from Detroit, as they always seem to do, the Dallas Cowboys have not won a single game at home. You just hate to see it. You just hate to see it. And not only have they not won, they've gotten murdered. Okay, they got murdered by the Packers in the wild card round. Then fast forward to this year, they get murdered by the Saints in week 2, and then they practically get murdered by the Ravens. That the final score does not reflect how the Ravens just knocked the doors off them and never looked back. And then today or last Sunday, they get murdered by the Detroit Lions. So, hey, they get their little bye week. So maybe, after a couple of road games against Atlanta and San Fran, maybe their first game against the Eagles, they'll figure it out. But honestly, at this rate, maybe they won't win another home game ever. Who knows? A man can dream, can he? Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.